All right, so here goes about 35 years of everyday carry. Just some thoughts on the knives that I've used over that period of time. I'm sitting here recovering from rotator cuff surgery, so I thought this might be kind of fun to look back on stuff. I'm assuming this is going to be part one, because it probably gets crazy about 10, 15 years ago, but way back in the 70s, mid-70s, so we lived in the suburbs of Chicago. My dad was a big muskie fisherman, and so that always meant going to northern Wisconsin, going to Canada, wherever. And then they announced that they were going to open up a lake in Illinois called Shabona Lake, where they were going to stock these new hybrid tiger muskies. So even before the lake was open, maybe, I don't know, somewhere along the line, we went there. Long story short, I found this knife, buck 110, and my dad kept it for years and years, and then we moved to rural Oklahoma, and he gave it to me. Finally, it was my knife or whatever. He was just trying to keep it out of my hands till I was old enough, because he told me I was going to lose it. He always carried a case, one of those 3-blade kind of whittling cases. I forget what they call it, maybe the Stockman or something. And so he was convinced this was too big for a pocket knife. I was going to lose it. I was going to get in trouble, whatever. But so then through the 80s and even into the 90s, this was my knife. If I was carrying a knife, things were just different then, right? I didn't, we didn't have a lot of excess money, so we just carried what we carried. And in Oklahoma, so a lot of people carried buck 110s. So keep going. It's the 90s now, and I think I'm in law school, and I meet a girl who's from California, and we go to, fly out, barely know her, but kind of know her, and it's Christmas break. I think it was it Christmas break? No, it was spring break, and I fly out to see her to help her drive back, and we go to, I think it was San Clemente Pier. We're sitting there, her mom and her dad, and I'm all worried about trying to impress them and everything. Appetizer shows up, and I don't even know how I got it out there, flight or drove or whatever, but again, it was different back then. But so anyway, appetizer shows up. I see her mom whisper to the waiter, something's going on. Then, he doesn't come back, and then somebody's about to dive into, I don't know what it was, grilled calamari or something. And she's like, oh no, hold on, he's going to bring a knife back. And with that, I whipped out the buck 110, took it out, and started cutting right into that appetizer. That's just, I didn't think anything wrong with it. We weren't indoors. It was like outside restaurant, kind of, I don't know, whatever. But so she took one look at that. She was like, ooh, and I could tell immediately, I don't know what you want to say, that they were not my people, or that, and she was, I don't know if she was embarrassed or what, but so I could tell it was wrong. But anyway, that's still what I carried. So I carried this, and then same girl, I am flying up to see her for a Christmas and do the same thing, help her drive her car back. And I show up, and the mom comes out with me, and she pulls out. She says, if you're going to be working in offices and that, you can't really be using that big knife that you had, on the pier. And she says, here is a gentleman's knife. And so this is a little Kershaw Wild Turkey. I don't even know what the steel is. I think the number on it, I think it's a Kershaw 4150. And it was in real good shape until recently one of the dogs got it, freaking shoot it. But so then, of course, I didn't take to using this immediately. I thought it was really small. Just didn't feel right, but I was very appreciative, and she might have been right. So, but it grew on me over time. The more I saw it, and it was like really nice and clean, and I don't know. So one thing familiarized me with Kershaw. The next thing, a much, much smaller knife with that kind of thin blade, which I'm still not a fan of, but yeah, it is what it is. So I'm carrying this through, I finish up school and that, get a job, and now I'm working back at a law firm, not a law firm, just a business downtown Chicago, and we're on the 22nd floor of a high-rise, and September 11th happens. And so it made everybody rethink everything, right? So after that, I wanted something that was more I don't know what in my mind, tactical or something, right? Everybody's thinking all kinds of stuff. And one of the things that was out then, and I don't have it anymore, but this is some similar thing, Gerber, that Paraframe, those things were everywhere. So I picked up a couple of those. This is some variant of it that I had somewhere along the way. I think it's broken. So yeah, then I started carrying this Gerber, thinking that it was, you know, slimmer, whatever, I don't know. Just I carried it. So that's 2001, and then I'm trying to think where we're at. 2002, I think it is. So I'm looking at the Gerber, and then 2002, I think it was, Kershaw came out with a really colorful knife that was similar to this. And so now I'm finally working. I've got a little bit of money finally. This is not a Kershaw. This is some other knockoff or something. But it's a knife that looked a little something like this, thin. It had this, you know, whatever you call this metal effect with these colors on them. So same thing. I'm still looking at it. Still carrying those Gerbers. But now I'm checking out Kershaws more. I'm aware of them, what's out there. I like them. Sure enough, I buy some goofy knockoff, you know, a Gerber with this same color pattern or whatever. I didn't carry it for long, but it was definitely, as I'm, you know, moving and familiarizing myself more with knives, this was one of them that I used too. So then, and I don't have this with me, I'll put it in here, but then the next thing, so I'm back to Kershaws. Then I'm looking at Kershaws. I want a Kershaw because, of course, you know, the mother, and now I married that woman, same girl, so she's my mother-in-law, and she talked about Kershaw and the Kershaw, and that's my absolute favorite knife at this point. Just, you know, the years do things to you, and she's passed on now. I'm more appreciative for her than I could ever say. But so anyway, the next knife that I got, and this isn't it, but I'll flash a picture, but this kind of represents it, is the, what is this thing? This is a Kershaw Leek. The one that I had was a Chive. I think it was the 1600, and this is the 1660 or something. And so this kind of combined a few things. It was a Kershaw. One of the things that I liked, and both my father liked at this point, were the, you know, the metal scales and the very thin profile of the knife, as, you know, compared to, let's say, the Buck 110. So, but the Chive was even smaller than this, and I don't know, they were small, I'll say that, but I was carrying them quite a bit because I just, various other things, I was carrying other things on me now. I didn't feel like I needed a large knife, because I generally had some other stuff with me, you know, as we're going around. So, had the Chive, and then over time, same thing. I don't know what we are now. Let's say 2004, 2005. I was starting to feel, I don't know, I just didn't like how thin and small that knife was. So, and then I heard about a new company out there, and this groundbreaking VG10 steel. And so, of course, went with, what is this thing? This is the Endura in VG10. And I thought it had green scales, but in any event, Endura, it was nice, it was big, it was almost too big, but loved it, like really, just something about this knife. It had a little bit thicker blade. I didn't like all those thin blades. I like kind of the blade that has more of a belly to it, but really liked this knife. It was maybe, you know, just I don't know, I like it. But so same thing, I'm in an office somewhere in California again, and lunch comes, or whatever, bunch of boxes in there, and they want it, and they want us to, you know, she says, go get the letter opener. And I was just laughing, like, who has a letter opener, not a knife? But so anyway, so I busted out the knife, started cutting into stuff, and then somebody remarked there, oh my gosh, is that even legal? And I had never in my life considered, and it was, but the punchline was, is I didn't know. I couldn't definitively say, yes, this is legal per California, blah, blah, blah. But so anyway, so that got me thinking again. And so I picked up, again, now I'm following Spyderco at this point in my life, and they came out with the, you know, the small one, the Delica in ZDP 189. And so I had been, now I'm getting more into knives, and so I was all excited about this ZDP 189. I'll flash some pictures up of this. But I got the Delica, and man, I just did not like, coming from the Endura, going to the Delica, I just did not like the form factor of that knife. I don't know what it was, just didn't appeal to me, but I carried it for a while. And then so I'm hearing about a new company, and I don't know what this is now, 2010 maybe, 2011. It come out, and now for the first time you hear about SV30. And so of course I got the 940, right? And just I carried it despite the fact that it again had just that thin, you know, narrow blade. Not my number one, but I carried it for a couple years because I was all impressed with the steel. And so this is where I'll probably end this now. What are we on? 10-15 minutes already. The next knife that I came up with, because then I'm looking back at Kershaw's. I got a Benchmade, I got a Spyderco, I got that, so I went back to Kershaw, and they came up with the Blur with S30V, and this finally was a knife that I think I bought it in 2012, and I probably carried this, not this exact one. I think it either got ripped off, lost, or whatever, as most of these things will or have over the years. But everything, I like that slight drop point blade, the jimping back here with the you know, whatever false bezel up at the top, nice beefy. Yeah, I love that kind of profile, and I'll get more into that as I you know, covered part 2 of this. But so this was probably my favorite all time, besides, you know, the first 2, and, you know, one obviously for sentimental reasons. But so I just really liked this knife, and this is kind of what kick-started me back in 2012 into buying a bunch more knives. So I'll go ahead and try to find a part 2 of this, and then, you know, just stick in all the knives that I've been carrying for the last 10 years. It kind of changed in that it's not a linear progression of knives like this is. But all right, hope everyone's well. Bye.